Getting to Know You is the name of the piece that we just heard. It's from the old Broadway Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, The King and I. In the show, Anna, a British schoolteacher who has been hired as a governess, sings the song as she strikes up a warm and affectionate relationship with the children and the wives of the King of Siam. Getting to Know You is the central theme of David Brooks' book, How to Get to Know a Person. It seems like a strange title for a book. After all, we don't need to be taught how to know someone, do we? Apparently, though, we may know other people, but we often do not know about their true selves, or their personal story, or their motivations. We are around people who have a story, and yet it is possible to know someone for a long time and not know that person well. There is something normal to that. At the workplace, it might not be appropriate to share personal information. In other locations, getting to know someone too well is just not done. If one does bear too much of one's life or personality, someone else is likely to call it a festival of inappropriate sharing. People, though, want to see and be seen. We want to tell our stories and to have others know us. To be seen and known is to be real. There's a drive in most people to connect with others, to feel more multidimensional. In the Babylon 5 television series, an alien named Jakar tells a human that no one here is exactly as he appears. This is true, probably of everyone and every place, even in space stations hundreds of years from now. Sometimes we hide away our stories because they are too painful to share, and sometimes we fear that others will be indifferent to us. Besides, our society wants to put us into boxes. It's easy enough to do something to do, and sometimes people do fit into those boxes well, but many defy expectations. For example, Larry Smith, Southern white male, late middle-aged boomer, early childhood in Southern Baptist churches, married to a woman who lives in mostly a white suburb, sends his kid to a private parochial school. In an age of identity politics, it seems likely that describes someone who tends to be fundamentalist, racist, homophobic. Stereotypes have their limits. We need to be aware of the tendency in our times to categorize people based upon a few factors of identity. To know someone, we need to be able to take in the whole person. To do that, we need to approach someone without assumptions about them, and we need to ask questions that are likely to open them up. It is more than just questions to know a person. You need to accompany that person. For David Brooks, accompaniment is the mode of just being with the person without going too deep, but being present in a way that causes someone to feel safe and trusting. In time, that person becomes more comfortable with opening up, revealing what is happening inside, and who that person truly is. Questions are the most difficult aspect of getting to know someone. I feel that questions are sometimes a challenge. One should refrain, to the best of one's ability, from beginning a question with the word why. If they know why, their story would be entirely different. If you ask someone, why did you empty the bottle of ketchup over your brother's head? Then you will hear something like, I was angry. It kind of makes the point, but it doesn't go deep. If you asked instead, what thoughts were going through your head when you emptied the bottle of ketchup on over your brother's head, then the responses are more likely to be richer and go further into the inner world of the other person. You'll find out what that person is experiencing in the moment. Today we will be experiencing directly that kind of encounter that David Brooks writes about, to know each other better. I am asking you to find someone other than your spouse or partner to talk to. At this point in our service, I'm going to ask you to get up and move. Find somebody you don't necessarily know as well as you might others. And if you're a visitor to the congregation this morning and feel like taking part, that's fine. Or even if you aren't a visitor, it's understandable. Some people may not want to be involved in this, and we might need to respect that decision. So I invite you now, in this moment, to find somebody to talk to. Is it your spouse or your closest friend? If you're online, you will be connected with someone else. If you're online or in the room, it's all right to decline, of course. All right. I know this is not a group that has any problems talking, obviously. This is one of the things that someone once told me: if you're a UU minister, you never let the people go because they'll go off on their own. So here we are. I invite you to be seated if there's a chair. If you found somebody to talk to, that's great. Here are some questions. Fanny, please share the slide. I've lost you all. You're already talking, but you're not focused. Please, my people, please listen, just for a moment. I'm scared that this happens with second graders all the time. These are the questions that David Brooks created for encountering other people. One of these questions was created by our own Chuck West. I'll leave that to your guess which one it was. I'm not going to tell you today. I would ask that they are general enough to be applicable to most people. I would ask that you generally agree on the questions between the two of you and spend time opening up a bit with each other. It's all right in this exercise if you only use one question and you talk about it. That's all right. You don't have to move. The goal is not to get each question, but to go deeper with the question that you have, or questions you have. What is hoped for is that you will get to know someone a little bit better, and someone else will know you better as well. You have now 12 minutes. Hi, it's time for us to return to our service, the remainder of the service. Okay. Make it loud. That's not loud enough. That's better. You're still getting a little bit of sound there. Before I say anything else, I need to apologize to the people online. There was some planning that did not happen very well, and it's my fault. I know that this was not as rich as it was for the people who were present, and I'm sorry about that. According to David Brooks, the exercise we just participated in is a spiritual one. He writes, I wanted to learn these skills, seeing others, understanding others, making other people feel respected, valued, and safe, for what I think of as spiritual reasons. Seeing someone well is a powerfully creative act. No one can fully appreciate their own beauty and strengths unless those things are mirrored back to them in the mind of another. There is something in being seen that brings forth growth. If you beam the light of your attention on me, I blossom. If you see great potential in me, I will probably come to see great potential in myself. If you can understand my frailties and sympathize with me when life treats me harshly, then I am more likely to weather the storms of life. The roots of resilience, the psychologist Diana Fosha writes, are to be found in the sense of being understood by and existing in the mind and heart of a loving, attuned, and self-possessed other. And how you see me, I will learn to see myself. David Brooks perceives this as a spiritual experience. One of the definitions of spirituality that I have explored before is that of profound connection. Some would view spirituality as connection with God or gods. Others would describe spirituality as connection with the earth. Those in Eastern religion might contend that spirituality is about connection between oneself and other selves across time. Perhaps the spirituality that Brooks writes of is the connection between people that enables one to gain some degree of self-realization because someone else sees you and affirms reality that you represent. So what are the obstacles to seeing other people? What prevents us from connecting? Egotism is one. It's simply the disinterest in seeing others. Anxiety can produce noise in our own heads that drowns out the sounds of others. Another is naive realism. This is the opinion that the way the world appears to you is the only reality, and therefore everyone must see the world the same way that you do. An impediment for some people is the belief that their thoughts are more worthy than those of others. After all, they may think, why should I try to understand lesser minds? Some people cannot connect with others deeply because they are flooded and engaged in stereotypes to categorize people, and therefore believe in differences rather than commonalities. Don't understand that to be human is to be many different ways. Some other people cannot see you because they see the person you were rather than the person you are now. Often your parents are like that. I experienced, though, that issue with a colleague in ministry who I was in seminary with. I remembered the person he was rather than the person I encountered years later. In seminary, he was far too young. And when I say too young, I mean he was probably 24 years old. But in honesty, he presented his actual mental age as 17 years old. He was like a teenager in high school, not somebody who was going to seminary. He didn't have the seriousness, the gravitas that a minister needs to have. That is not an exaggeration. I thought that he was far too young. I was shocked when I encountered him about 8 years later, and he seemed mature and knowledgeable. In my mind's eye, I kept expecting him to revert to the mental age that he was in seminary. I also realized that when he was in seminary, he had overcome substance addiction before he went to seminary. And often people who are addicts or recovering addicts have a lesser degree of maturity because when they'd used the substances, they did not have the ability to develop. But apparently after seminary, he really developed intellectually and emotionally. But I found it difficult to see him as he was in that moment. I kept thinking of him as the person he was before. It seems, though, the most important thing that we can offer when we decide to see someone, though, is entirely spiritual. Brooks writes, "Now you may be an atheist, an agnostic, a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, a Buddhist, or something else. But this posture of respect and reverence, the awareness of the infinite dignity of each person you meet, is a precondition of seeing people well. You may find the whole idea of God ridiculous, but I ask you to believe in the concept of soul. You may just be chatting with someone about the weather, but I ask you to assume that the person in front of you contains some piece inside themselves that has no weight, size, color, or shape. It gives them infinite value and dignity. If you consider that each person has a soul, you will be aware that each person has some transcendent spark inside them. You will be aware that at the deepest level, we are all equals. We're not equal in might, intelligence, or wealth, but we are all equal on the level of our souls. If you see the person you meet as precious souls, you'll probably wind up treating them well." That seems very much like something one of my colleagues in ministry once said. I listen. I really listen to my colleagues. She said, "I know that not every Unitarian Universalist believes in God, much less Jesus, but I know in my heart that we believe in the Holy Spirit." I believe that what she meant was that we approach human beings with reverence, acknowledging the sacredness that we sense in others. It is a more satisfying, passionate description of the human spirit, perhaps, than the call to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It is in seeing someone that we can know or experience that which spiritual leaders have seen and experienced in us over time. In closing, let me share some wisdom about getting to know a person from my internship supervisor, Rupert Lovely, at Countryside Unitarian Universalist Church in the Chicago suburbs, Palatine, Illinois. Rupert was something of a character. If your name is Rupert Lovely and you live on Flake Drive, he told me, you cannot get anyone to deliver a pizza to your home. But Rupert was profoundly wise. He was given to saying things that I could only understand years after our time together, and his words speak 30 years later. He told me once, people come to a Unitarian Universalist church to know and be known. People come to a Unitarian Universalist church to know and be known. We come to see and be seen, to find that in others that is real, and to be found ourselves as real also. May it ever be. So be it. Blessed be. Amen.